Now, introducing the Queen of Men's Health.
Welcome to the Gilbert podcast, where you'll find the premier men's health info delivered to you the only way I know how, truthful and raw, with the occasional boner joke thrown in. If you guys like this episode, subscribe to my YouTube and slide in the DMs on Instagram and join the party. The best part is usually the stuff that I don't hit record for.
Right, the outtakes.
You guys, that this podcast took like a hiatus throughout the summer and now it's back. And the funny thing I realized is I had my last episode with PJ Striet, and now this is my first episode back in the rebrand with PJ Striet. Dude, how do you feel about being that person?
It's so honored. So honored. That's awesome. The Allie's podcast 2.0 to be the first guest.
I didn't even realize that till like this morning. I was like, oh shit, the last episode I did was with you. I think like in June or May, or I don't even know. Spring.
Yeah, it was last spring or summer.
Yeah. Man, everything blurs into one. And PJ and I were talking offline how we feel old, and I was like, yeah, it's funny because I seem to keep having that conversation now that I'm 41 and you're only a few years older than me, and we're both October babies. But we are like some of the few OGs that trained people in person forever, it seems, before going online, right?
Yep. And I'm slowly becoming a full-time personal trainer again. I don't know how this happened. I don't know how this happened. So I swore I'd never do it full-time again, but I'm really enjoying it. I got a great little setup. And it's kind of a built-in clientele, because where my office is, it's kind of this, it's like a brand new, like higher end, like residential apartment community that has like all these amenities and clubhouse and really nice fitness center. And I'm like, shit, I'll train some people, just thinking I'll do 5, maybe 10 sessions a week and cap it there. But it's just, I'm getting like Google Maps has become my best source of marketing. Because, it's personal trainer near me, and I come right up, and I got all the transformation pics and like all these great reviews. I just like every week I get somebody who reaches out. I'm like, please be an online application, please be, and they're like, oh, in person. Well, yeah, I'll take you on. Why not? So I think I'm gonna cap it out though, because this is getting like, I get up at 4:30 usually, do some online stuff for like an hour and a half, and I'll train people from like 6:30 to like noon. And like all those spots are like now filled during the week. I'm doing like a couple on Saturday. Like, I think that's enough. So
you're reverting back to our previous life. So that is interesting. And I actually have to ask you, are there things that you do different in your approach than from when you used to train more people in person?
By and large, probably not. No, not. I think I'm a much better communicator and a much better technician in terms of cueing than I was even back in 2016. And I don't know if it's just because I've learned more and doing all this online stuff and having to literally type out such great cues and like exercise descriptions. I don't know if that's what's responsible for that or not, but I feel like I'm in a real like rhythm with my communication in person with clients. Because I have a funny story. I have this client I think she was born and raised in Korea, and now she lives in Cincinnati. Like, you know what Procter and Gamble is?
Yeah.
P&G, huge. Their world headquarters is like 500 feet from my office.
Okay.
So all these people that live in this apartment community are P&Gers. So it's a lot of, so there's like, so her husband's from Brazil. She was born and raised in Korea, and when I say she speaks zero English, she speaks zero English. She's just, and like having to coach her in person, it's literally a lot of hand signals and like just demoing the exercise, head nods, smiles, thumbs up. And this woman is crushing it. Like, I was really apprehensive about like I'm like, I don't know if this is going to work. Like, and it's worked out brilliantly. And then like, she's on my online platform too. I'm doing her nutrition. I was like, I don't know how this is going to work because I think the language barrier is just, but like her husband helps her out the emails, and this woman just crushes her nutrition. Like she was started out, she's real petite as it was, probably like 120, I don't know, 128, I think she started out at. And like she's been with me like 3 months. She's down to like 119. Her like nutrition consistency is like perfect. Like I go into like her track app logs. I use Nutrition Track. And I'm like, this is perfect. This is perfect nutrition tracking. I'm like, I was blown away that she actually was able to grasp all this, but sidebar, but
No, I like, dude, first of all, that is probably one of the best ways to learn something is with that type of situation where it's like next to impossible. Like that reminds me, like senior year of college, my strength conditioning internship was at University of Hartford, and they were a basketball school. So the strength coach gave me the track team, which was kind of like the not so popular, whatever word you want to use.
Put you in the field sports.
Yeah. And he's like, you're going to teach them all how to Olympic lift, squat, bench press, deadlift. And I was like, okay. But you take people who have no athletic background really at all, except for running and stuff, which these people specifically don't. I know other track athletes do, but that forced me to be a great coach. Imagine teaching Olympic lifts to people who came to college already knowing how. So that just expedites your ability. And I do think also having to type stuff out is a challenge that if you don't even come from a background of any in-person training at all, I don't know how people do that who have never done that.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't either. So yeah, and I guess the other thing I'm better at now in person than I was is kind of like recircuiting people, because a lot of these people are coming to me having done the same type of stuff that everybody else does. Mm-hmm. And they're really apprehensive about my approach. You know, they're doing the classes in Orange Theory and, you know, all this gobbledygook. And it's like, when I'm doing like their initial continuing education, they're reading my manuals and watching my videos, and I'm working with them in person. And there's just a lot of, you kind of have to just kind of recircuit people. And I'm better at that now, you know, than I was. So it used to be just like, this is what we do, this is how we do it, and don't question me about it. Now I guess I've softened in my older age. I don't know.
And I like how you say that with a straight face. You're like, yeah, softer, like whatever. And for you guys who have not heard PJ or didn't listen to our last podcast, like the reason I like him, the reason we get along is because we just say shit that has no filter. Like, I don't know how else to deliver something other than very honestly and directly. And I think that you're very similar. And I think people get attracted to working with someone like that because they want that. I think people who are either highly offended or sensitive will gravitate toward a trainer that might coddle them. And we're not really like that.
Not my jam.
Yeah. Not your jam at all.
I am getting a little more gentle in person for sure with these clients than I used to be. When I had my warehouse gyms, it was very like, I set the theme. Like you come in, it was grungy. I had like, you know, like Motley Crue and Rage Against the Machine posters everywhere, and like all this hardcore like King Kong like stuff everywhere. And it just was kind of like, and that was just kind of my personality, you know. And people, you know, they loved it, but there's just so much, like, again, you just have to, people have been exposed to so much dumb shit, especially since the boom of Instagram and online fitness, that you really have to go out of your way to sit people down and really explain. Again, it's teaching somebody to fish. Mm-hmm. They have to have the buy-in. That's why I have all my clients online or in person. They have to do mandatory continuing education before they even start the program.
That's smart.
Like, you got to understand, like the first 10 days, I was like, don't worry about, you know, the nutrition parameters. Don't worry about starting the training program. That'll be scheduled for you for the first 10 days. You're going to watch this series of videos. You're going to read this manual, and I'll know if you didn't. Like, I will know. And if you ask me questions that are contained within those, I know you haven't watched them. I was like, so don't just watch them. I said, it's about a 4.5 hour time commitment over 10 days. And I think if you're serious about this, you will put that time in to do it if you want optimal results. So that's how I kind of set the stage in that way.
That's a great onboarding process.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah. I put one video on their calendar every day or one thing to read every day over like 10 days. And that way they're ready to go.
So I know like with in-person training, the ability to deliver more than just a workout at that minute is
Right.
kind of what we were handcuffed with. Whereas working online, you could help people in so many different ways. So do you have your in-person people work offline with you as well?
Absolutely. All of them.
That's
They
huge.
get it, and they get it because they're paying me a premium fee to train in person. They get my online coaching for free, but I handle them just like an online client in terms of check-ins and biweekly assessments, putting in measurements, photos. I monitor, their habits, and, they're expected to check in on the habit trackers every day. And they're really good about it because they know they actually got to see me in person, like at some point during the week. Like before they come for their workouts, bring them up on my portal. I'm like, okay, she checked in every day. That's good. And if they didn't, I'm like, I just show them the screen. I'm like, this is not going to cut it. Like, I know. So it's this hybrid approach where you work with people in person and then you have them on your online program and you're covering nutrition, habits, accountability, additional workouts to be done on their own that they just bring it up on my app and they can, and then it's nice because then I can structure the training I do with them in person. Like I got a husband and a wife. Like right now we're doing upper lower total. Mm-hmm. So they do upper lower on their own on my app and then total. And I just log all their stuff as I'm training them on my app. I can go back and see what they did, the rest of the week. It's really worked out really well. Like if I had like a full-on gym again, I would do it. And I don't know if you want to talk about this, but like I would do it to where it was key card access. You get open gym time whenever you want. All their programs would be on my app on their phone. They can come and do their program and their workouts whenever they want. And then they would get like once a week in person with a trainer as well. That's how I would do it again if I did it. I'm not going to do that, but if I ever was to.
I think that, I like that because a lot of the times I feel like people still don't know what online coaching is. They're like, oh, you're going to work on Zoom live with me. And I'm like,
no. Yeah, I know. I get that. My friends and family don't even know what it is I really do.
Yeah, I don't think
anyone. They assume like, oh, so you like stand there in front of the screen and like do like curls or something? I'm like, no.
You have to explain to people like online coaching is way harder and you've been doing it longer than I have. And I'm just like, you're responsible for so much more because I feel beyond like technical proficiency of performing a lift, it becomes like a rent-a-friend, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like a babysitter. And then you develop a friendship or something. And then they don't feel like they have to listen to you as much.
Exactly.
And they look the same. They look the same year after year.
That's why I got out of in-person training the first time, because I'm like, this is really not fulfilling. Nobody is getting any better. Nobody looks any better. I got a ton of clients. I'm doing 60 sessions a week. All these people are my friends. I was like, but they're coming in to work out twice a week or whatever, 3 times, whatever it is. And I'm like, that's great and all. I was like, but there's so much more that we can be doing here. And you got to attack it on the mindset and habits end, and you have to have actual like big brother looking over all of your stuff throughout the week in order to get anywhere with it. So that's why I got out in person the first time. I'm like, there's a much better way to do this. Where it'll be cheaper for the client. They can train a lot more often. For a fraction of the price. We got the nutrition intervention, we got the accountability, we got the habits, and you have unlimited access to me via, my instant messenger or email or whatever. And I can get on video with these people and actually talk to them from wherever. So, but I will say, Ali, there's no substitute for like, if you want to learn how to train hard, there's really no substitute from having a good in-person coach for a while. Oh. I know for a fact, 80% of my clients are not training the way that I'm telling them to train, because I'll get videos They'll send me videos, or I'll look at their workout logs. I'm like, okay, you did 100 by, it calls for 3 sets, 8 to 10. You did 100 by 8, 100 by 8, 100 by 8. I'm like, if you can do 3 sets of 8 with the same weight, it's not heavy enough. I'm like, do 130 by 8, then 100 by 8, and then you should be fatigued enough, you get to drop down to 75 to get 8 again. That's what I want. And I get videos, and I'm like, they're like, what do you think of this? I'm like, well, the form looks good, but you had about 17 more reps left in you.
Yeah.
Literally. I'm like, put 40 more pounds on the bar next workout. She's like, 40? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, your rep speed was not slowing down at all. Like, and I've watched so many people train over my life. I can tell. I'm like, you're nowhere close to having an effective set there at all. Like at all.
No.
So.
And I love that you said that, because I think that is the single hardest thing to teach online or over the internet with online coaching is training intensity. You could give someone fucking all the volume on earth and they're fine and they feel great and can go out and be social on the weekend. And I'm just like, how?
You can't. So it's like, I've been posting a lot about, how do you know if you're training hard? What are the parameters? I'm like, look, if you do a set of 10 with a weight that you could do 15 reps with before, when you hit failure, I'm like, and you stop at 10, you've done literally no effective repetitions in that set. And that's how 90% of people are training. That's why you see these workouts of, these 40 set glute workouts and 55 set back workouts, 10 exercises, 4 sets a piece. I'm like, that would kill an adult gorilla. Like you couldn't, if you're training with any kind of intensity, not even to failure, but let's say 1 or 2 reps in reserve, which again, no one knows what 1 or 2 reps in reserve is because they've never trained hard enough to know what they're capable of.
Exactly.
But even if you were doing it 1 or 2 reps in reserve, you can't do more than like 20 sets in a workout. Like you can't. I mean, you probably could once, but then you're not going to recover from it. And the systemic fatigue is going to be so, I mean, it's just, learning how to train hard is an art and it's a skill, just like learning how to eat. It's a skill that is developed over a long time, I put up a videos on IG. I'm like, this is what a hard set should look like. I'm like, do you see how my reps are slowing down the last 2 or 3, and then all of a sudden I'm like, it stops? That's kind of, you at least want to get to the part where it's slowing down a little bit.
Yes. Luke and I were talking about this because, there's sets where you want the weight to slow down, and then there's sets where you should be shaking. And it reminds us of back in the day when you're training in one of the gyms that don't really seem to exist anymore, but, dirty, grungy, like, no phones or whatever. You're making noises that make people think like you're being murdered because you are so much pain. And you're just like, like the noise and the sound. And like, you should have people running over to you with what comes out of you, but nobody trains like that anymore because that culture just seems to have gone for being replaced with headphones and screens and people wanting to train at home and all that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, when I belong to, I guess, 4 gyms now.
Yeah.
And I'll go in there and train. And I'm not one of these people that makes a spectacle when I'm like, I'm training, like to where I'm just like convulsing and I'm screaming or anything, but like I train hard and, I'm real private, but people notice, like, we don't see people do that in here, like ever, and you get people walking up to you like, well, actually a tip for any trainers or coaches that want to attract clients, join multiple high-end gyms, assuming you have the resources in your area, and just rotate throughout the week. Back day can be at Lifetime, legs can be here or there. Just rotate around. You'll get people that come up to you asking you, like, you clearly like know what the hell you're doing, or how do you look like that? Or what did that exercise work? I've never seen that before. And I've gotten a lot of clients just training at gyms.
Yeah. Yeah. I encourage people, if they have a home gym, join a gym.
Too. Yeah.
Yeah. I have multiple gyms like at Lifetime. They think that I'm like Miss Olympia, whereas at Redcon, I'm the smallest person there.
Right. Yeah.
It's funny, but I'm not going to complain, but that is like the thing. So segueing from, training hard, obviously we can keep going on about that. And I encourage you guys to look at PJ's Instagram, because the post that you say, if you can lift that and do like 15 more, I think people don't really cognate as like, if it burns and it hurts, that doesn't mean stop. That means keep going.
No, and furthermore, like real quick, like it's pretty clear now that you only really need, assuming you're training hard within a rep or two of failure, you really only need like 10 to 15 sets per muscle group per week. That's all you need, but it assumes that you're training hard. And if you're not training hard, 25, 50, 100 sets per muscle group per week is not going to get you very far.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. People were, it's not so much now, it's kind of swinging back, but people were on this volume kick for so long. I don't know I can't remember I probably shouldn't even say his name. I know who it is. He releases that study that says you need, 45 sets per muscle group per week was superior. I'm like, no one can train that hard doing 45 sets per muscle group per week.
No.
Furthermore, how are you going to fit all that volume in? Like,
yeah,
you're going to train 6 or 7 days a week, twice a day to cover the volume. Like, it's not even possible.
No. And people don't eat enough for it to be worth it.
No. Bullshit. Like, when I started training, again, we're going to stay with the training thing, I guess, because I just got more thoughts on this. When I started to train, when I was 15, like in a structured way, we had an actual strength coach at my high school. I think I said this in your last podcast. I think we had one of the first like nice high school weight rooms and like a full-time strength coach, probably in the country at the time.
It's very rare.
And this guy was a big kind of Arthur Jones, L. Dartington, Mike Menseris,
yep,
HIT, high intensity training devotee. But he was smart enough. He's like, looking back at it now, he would let us bench press for 4 or 5 sets of like 3 to 5 reps and do a bunch of curls. And then the rest of the program was like 1, maybe 2 really hard sets to failure on like 5 or 6 exercises. And we got strong as hell. Like, but we bought into that because at the time, like, oh, you can't just do 1 set. We bought into it because he let us, because we were all 15-year-old friggin' testosterone-driven athletes that wanted to bench press and wanted to, get our arms bigger. So he's smart enough to do that. But all of my high school and college life, I was doing like 1 and 2 sets to failure. And then I got away from that, like in my 30s, and started doing this insane. I still do bro splits. I love bro splits, but I was doing just no rhyme or reason. How many exercises can I attack this muscle group with? And I just fed into that. I don't know why, because like I knew better. Doing 40 set back workouts and doing like, the woman I was dating at the time was like, she was a IFBB pro, and that's the way that she wanted to train. I'd train with her, and I'm like, my joints hurt so bad, and I looked no better, and I was no stronger, and I just was tired all the time.
Okay, so wait, you didn't look any better, you weren't stronger, and you're tired from doing more volume.
Right.
Interesting.
So eventually, like 5 years ago, I canned that whole approach and went back to doing what I knew I should be doing, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people that still think it is boring. Yeah, everything that works is boring, and it's really like, ever since CrossFit exploded in the 2000s, I feel like everyone got so into the, like, Luke calls it huffy puffy work, where it's minimal rest periods and you're all sweaty and yeah, you feel great. But like, what happened to like straight old school, like lift and then rest?
Straight sets, no intensity techniques, no partials, no drop sets, no trisets, no isometronics, just a straight set done well, close to failure or to failure, progressive overload, and you rest like 2 minutes between sets without doing like cartwheels and shit between and running in place and doing whatever. It's like, and that's the most effective stuff. Yeah. And I don't know if it's people just aren't wired to be able to sit still anymore. Like, I don't sit still. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you. Resting 3 minutes between sets is, I don't necessarily like that, but I know it's what I should be doing.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, like, okay, is the time up yet? Like, my training is so boring, but it's so good right now. Like, it's just, 4 exercises, 2 sets apiece, like 8 good sets. Sit there for 2 or 3 minutes between sets.
Yeah. That's really
And
all I have to do. Like, can you imagine if somebody did like a 3x10 program and really fucking nailed it
they
and went
killed
to
it.
town?
Yeah.
You know, that would be, that would probably yield way more results than the program hopping and the ADD. And like, you know, I find being a coach and forgetting how people have this mindset of things having to change all the time. Like, I know that you deal with this and I deal with this, where I think it honestly came, you know, when did they develop like mesocycles and microcycles to line up with semesters in college, right? So this
Much.
whole like 4-week has to change thing.
No, no. I mean, Ali, honestly, the way I train, it's like I have one key indicator exercise every workout. That it's the first exercise on the workout. And I will just run that exercise for, I mean, sometimes for 16, 18 weeks at a time because I'm making progress on it still. There's no reason to change it. I
16
have a
to
little
18
bit.
weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, why would I change this? It's a good exercise. It's targeting the tissue I want to target. I connect with it. It's safe. It's got good stability. I can get good output. And I'm adding weight or reps every week or every other week. Sometimes I'll go on a 2 or 3 week stall, which that's not a plateau. That's just normal. I'll stick with it. If I go 3, 4 workouts in a row or 5 workouts in a row where nothing's going on, I'll swap it out. But
Yeah.
and then, you know, the rest of the exercises, my workouts, I do frequently switch up. I just like to have one thing where like I can monitor and gauge progress. And then the rest of it, it's just, you know, it changes a little bit more frequently. But I always have that. And then I can, once I stall out on that exercise, I just have a simple Excel spreadsheet for all, you know, every muscle group, you know, every movement pattern. I can scrap that exercise, go to another one. And then maybe 6 months later, I come back to that exercise. I'm like, okay, when I stopped this the last time, I was doing 240 for 8. My goal was to get to 255 for 9 over the next 10 weeks. But there could be like a 6 month or 1 year gap from doing that exercise. So it's kind of cool to go back and be able to see what your previous best were.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Cause not many people use Excel as much, I think, other than us who are old.
Yeah, I literally, I'm like horizontal push. I got a list of like 30 exercises that I've, you know, and I know what my PRs are on those. So, and I can just, if I stall out on something for a while and I've kind of, you know, milked it for all I can, I'll just be like, okay, let's go down the list. I'll throw that in. Let's see what I can do with that. And it's like that easy. It's that basic.
So that phrase, it's that easy, reminds me of when people will say that doing what we do in our lifestyle and nutrition and all must be easy for us. And I wonder why that phrase comes up. Like when people are like, oh, well, it's got to be easy for you. It used to be because we lived and worked in a gym,
Right.
but we don't do that anymore. So
Right.
what do you think they mean? Because I think it's like they see how we look at the end of, like, you and I both did a cut in October. That must come easy for us. Can you give your take on that?
Yeah, it's anything but easy. And I don't know what, I don't know if they just assume that we have some set of secrets that, you know, only we're privy to and we're not going to share with everybody else, or if they think that we're like genetic anomalies or we're all, you know, geared up or whatever. None of that's the case with me. Everything I have my clients do, that's how I do it. Like there isn't, I think that the difference is that number one, we value it. I mean, that's number one. We prioritize it because we value it. And we set our weeks up and our life up with systems to where we can be on autopilot with this stuff. Whether that's pre-logging and pre-planning your meals the night before, whether that's consistently getting to the grocery store to make sure you have the food you need in the house, whether that's on Sunday, looking at your calendar for the upcoming week and anticipating, okay, that day is a shit show. Like I got to move my workout. There's some roadblocks there. Like the biggest pillar of success to make it look easy is better planning and preparation.
I think so too. And I
That's
was
it.
thinking about that too, because at least for me, with the influx of online clientele in the last few years, it's really made me realize some stuff that maybe you and I think is normal that other people don't. And it drives me a little bit nuts in the sense that I'm like, I feel like I should know better to provide them suggestions, but putting yourself in someone else's shoes could be difficult sometimes. But
Yeah.
like for me, it's a no-brainer that if you go to a hotel, like, all right, it's Instacart, rotisserie chicken, like things that are easy, and keeping that in the fridge. And sometimes people don't realize, they're like, oh yeah, I can go get like a rotisserie chicken. Like,
Yeah.
did that
Just
happen
if
for
you live in
you?
another state, you can, take your rental car, get an Uber. Like there's a grocery store real close by. I guarantee it. You can go get some stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Just because
Like,
you're traveling doesn't mean you're hitting the hotel, restaurant, and bar every night and going out to eat every meal the entire time you're traveling. It just people just like a disconnect. They're like, so yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, even outside of the nutrition stuff, I just see people living their life in general with no structure whatsoever.
yeah.
Like it's like get up and have like just fly by the seat of your pants. You have really no idea what you're gonna do. Like I have systems for everything in my life. And if I didn't, I would be I'd be in a fucking mental hospital. I would be because I mean, I have literally from the time I get out of bed, the first thing I do when I get out of bed, I make the bed. Then I start coffee, which was pre, what's the word I'm looking for?
COVID.
No, the coffee I make was, set up the night before to go
Oh
off at
yeah, yeah.
4:30. I pour the coffee. I shower. I do deep breathing in the shower with my coffee. I know that's weird.
Yeah, that's weird.
And but my point is, I have structure. I know exactly how much time I'm allocating to online from X time to X time. I know how long I'm going to be training clients. I know that I have another block of time and I'm going to check in online with people. Then I know what from 4 to 6 looks like. If I didn't do that, like I don't know how people function without some type of a routine, but that carries over into my nutrition and training. Like it's systematized, and I don't even think about it anymore. Like it's just, but it's a skill set. Like all that stuff is a skill set, and the only way to get better as a skill is to practice the skill to where you get to a mastery phase with it, to where you're on autopilot with it. Right? I mean,
Oh yeah. That and
I just,
go ahead.
yeah. I mean, it's just so frustrating as you give people the roadmap, man. You're like I have a video how to pre-plan your meals for fat loss, and it's like I literally sit there and walk them through with the nutrition tracking app open. This is how you design your meals. I go meal by meal, like take 10 minutes every night and do this, and it's just like mind blowing to them. Like, oh, I don't
It
know if I can do
Yeah.
that. Why? Why can't you do that?
I like how you pointed out, when we were younger, we would have to literally look up in textbooks or books like the macros of a food and like add it up by hand in a notebook. And the trackers are just so easy.
So it's so freaking easy. Like you're just scanning barcodes and adjusting amounts of things and then putting the stuff on a food scale. Like yeah, like I have the big, it's like from 1986 or something. It's like the big book of calorie counts.
Yep.
Book is like 6 inches thick. And I remember like back in like the 90s or late 90s when I was in college, when I really like was interested in getting like really lean for the first time. Because I was like 240, 250 when I graduated high school. I was
Oh
just
wow.
like thick in some good ways and some bad ways. But I was like, I'm gonna get lean. So I got down to 190. But I remember having to look up like because I was starting to learn about calorie counting and macro. I would have to look stuff up. And it was like pen and paper in a notebook. And it's like now it's like, man, 5 to 10 minutes a day tops you might have wrapped up in planning the meals, tracking the meals. Okay, 15 minutes if 15 or 20 minutes if you factor in the prep time to cook the stuff and make the meal. But 20 minutes a day, I mean, come on. I don't care how busy you are. Everybody's got a 20-minute gap in their day, periodically to do this stuff.
Totally. it almost like it sucks because their society, I think, obviously contributes to how people are thought to operate. It leads back to when Kellogg's paid for cereal to be like the standard breakfast. Because I think the conversation that I remember always having was that breakfast does not have to be breakfast food,
No.
which was a very weird concept to a lot of people. But if you didn't grow up like that was your thing, then like I get why. And it's this continuous like having to understand why things seem so weird. And I'm like, why does this seem so weird? Like in the airport lounge, to put a bunch of grilled chicken in a cup and just eat that is very weird to somebody,
Oh
because
yeah.
they think you should have like rice and vegetables or whatever. And yes, you can or whatever, but like if you're out, you don't really know what is in that. And I'm trying to be more empathetic with that, but at the same time I struggle because I feel some of it's common sense, but then some of it is like, is this a cultural thing that we've all just been kind of brainwashed? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, where do a
Yeah.
lot of these decisions come from?
Yeah, no, I completely share your sentiment there. Like this morning, you know what my breakfast was? It was two ground chicken uh like hamburgers on high fiber bread at 8:30. People would think that was absolutely insane
I had
because
sushi yesterday.
yeah, right. I mean, yeah, like because it wasn't oatmeal and eggs or whatever, nothing wrong with oatmeal and eggs or breakfast cereal or a donut. So yeah, I don't I think it is a larger macro level societal socialization type cultural problem
Has to
in
be
many cases. Yeah.
the 3 meals a day. I mean, I see this at Disney, you know, that's how Disney operates.
Oh,
They
yeah.
Disney's a whole nother level. We can
Oh, it certainly is.
it's great for studying like
The problem.
whatever, anthropometry, however you say it, and just like,
Anthropologically.
yeah, like fat storage patterns and stuff like that. It's just very, and I'm not trying to be mean, but it's like I struggle to understand like, why can't we not do this to our kids, number one? But I'm sure that you're not happy with how you look, so I don't know. But it seems to just all be in Disney, and then they obviously pander to that by providing pastries and all these things for breakfast and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. I've been to Disney many times and I'm not a fan, but when I was there, I'm like, I've never seen anything like this before. I'm like, Ali, I think it's just a matter of time before 90% of the population's obese.
Oh yeah,
I really do.
it has to be. I
Might be
mean,
off by a few percentage points, but like I strongly believe that it's going to get there.
it's starting to be like normalized. I
And I
mean,
think that's why, like, yeah, like I don't doubt that those people probably don't like the way they look and feel, but it's just become so normal to them because their spouse looks the same way. And like it's just become normalized. And uh, they don't really care to do anything about it because, well, I'm not seeing any consequences from it just yet.
right.
Now, that's like the metabolically fit overweight person. Like, well, okay, yeah, you're in your 20s, you're 25, and your body mass index is 50, but your blood pressure is still okay now, and you're not pre-diabetic yet. But what's it going to look like when you're 32 or 40? Like, that's going to catch up with you. Like, it's going to.
Yeah.
Like, it's great that you're exercising if you're overweight, like, and you're like, you're fit or whatever. You're going to the gym 3 or 4 times a week, or that's odd. It's certainly better than being completely inactive and being overweight. Don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah.
But to say that, well, that's okay and that they're going to be fine, they're not going to have any health problems down the road, I think that's completely short-sighted.
Oh yeah. I mean, we go to Disney a lot. Charlie's like,
Yeah.
that's like his thing. And I used to get very angry, like very angry, because I'm like, they can do something about this. Like we can help them. And him and my friend Gil had to like kind of set me straight and be like, Allie, if they want help, they can get help. But let them live their life. You live your life, because the less angry you get, obviously, the better off I'll be. But I'm just like, it doesn't have to be this way. Just because you see the kids and the kids are just helpless and it's not their fault. And you don't want them to grow up like that, you know?
Yep. Unfortunately, they're going to.
Oh, it's anyway. I don't know how we got
It
onto
borders
that.
on abuse. It borders on abuse.
It does. It does. And I think you do a great job of like the examples that you post when you're like another boring PJ fat loss meal plan. But like I think those are fantastic because a lot of those foods people think are off limits. And I think when people think fat loss transformation or, you know, journey, which you and I both think people should at least put 1 year into even just learning how to do these habits and live this lifestyle, done with like these rapid transformations. But for you, when you show that you have, you know, Greek yogurt with cereal and stuff like that, people think that those are off limits. And I think a lot of people shy away from working with a coach because they feel like they're just going to be deprived and starved.
It absolutely doesn't have to be that way. Again, like 10 to 20% of your daily calories can be discretionary fun stuff. Now, for most people, we're only talking about 100 to 300 calories, right? But it's still something. Like that's where I throw my cereal in, you know, if I'm dying or whatever it might be. Like you also, if you're nailing things 26 days a month, at least that's about 80% of the time. Like you can go to dinner 3 or 4 times a week and eat, not track, and eat a hyper palatable indulgent meal and be fine and still make progress long term. Like you don't have to be deprived and you don't have to be perfect, like whatsoever. But you got to be, you know, the level of consistency that you need to work at is awfully high, though.
Oh yeah. I mean,
you got to do it. Think of it. 290 days a year for a year. If you're on point with stuff and doing things absolutely correctly, you got 75 days a year that you can, that's every vacation. I say this all the time. It's every vacation day. It's every holiday, every anniversary, every birthday, every whatever, Super Bowl Sunday, July 4th. That's a lot of days to like eat like a fuck stick. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But you can still do that and make progress. And it's just, people don't understand that whatsoever.
I like your position on that because you have talked about this before where people see everything as a celebration every day of the week.
Yes, that's exactly what they do. And people think like one good day or on-plan day followed by one crap day back and forth should be yielding them some type of results, and they don't understand why. I'm like, this is why I have my clients like track their habits. Did you go over your calorie limit today? You know, and did you track your calories accurately? Check a box. So, and then you look, they got to check the box. And then at the end of the month, oh, you dropped 8 pounds this month because you were 83% compliant with this. Oh, you didn't get anywhere or you put on 2 pounds? Well, because you were 47% compliant with this. You know, it's all in the numbers.
That is why online coaching is very, very useful. Now, ideal world would be like having people who do your hybrid is probably like the next best thing to one of us living with a client.
Yeah, and I tell you what, I was thinking literally earlier thinking about this. Like, if there was some way to me create a business, like I really like, I hate this term, but high ticket. If I could go spend 3 days with somebody 24/7 for 3 days, I could straighten your shit out completely.
Oh,
like
yeah.
I could literally stand in the kitchen with you, get the food scale out, get the app out, set your calories, step by step, take you through. This is how you make a meal. This is how you weigh food. This is your calorie limit. We're going to get the protein out of the way first in this meal. Let's pick and literally just, okay, now we're going to go for a walk. Now we're going to the gym. Then we're going to come back and make the next meal. If I did that with somebody for 3 days and had like literally that hands-on, I could totally straighten your shit out. Like, but I don't know how I do that. I guess I could do it locally, or somebody just pay me like $30,000. They can fly me. And but literally, Allie, I think that's really what people need. Like, because there's such a bridge and a gap between theory and application for people. Like people can read our stuff like, oh yeah, calorie deficit. Yeah, I need to get a gram of protein. Oh yeah, I see how he's, if they're looking at my meal logs on stories. Oh yeah, I see how he's doing that. But there's still this big gap between conceptualizing it and actually like doing it on your own. I've really come to learn that it's like most people need somebody literally like to come into their home and live with them for like at least a week. Here's what a typical week of fit living looks like. This is how you do everything.
I like, hey, we should talk offline for business concept, but like, I think there's something to that, and in also recognizing like a lot of the times we talk about how our approach works and what worked for people, but very infrequent do you hear people say what didn't. And I think we're getting there right now. Like what does not work is if we leave people alone to make some of these decisions without some sort of guidance. And I know for me that has been realizing that pre-planning in an app is not something that they think of right away or stuff like that. So like, I guess what I'm asking is like stuff like this, like what have you realized? Oh shit, this comes naturally to me, but this is probably not for someone else. And that might have delayed someone's progress. Cause I know my downfall would be recognizing like what is very weird to them and new and not part of their habit. But I think they think that this is like a short-term thing and they don't need these skills for the rest of their life.
If you want to keep your weight off, you do. Like,
Loved what you said when you said like the diet can have an endpoint, but the lifestyle can't.
No, and that's why it's so critical, because come New Year's, there's going to be all these 30-day challenges that people are going to do, and it's like I just don't understand. Like if you don't understand the process and it's not part of your identity, and you don't make the conscious decision, this is not going to be a diet. This is a total overhaul of my lifestyle. There's a big difference between a diet and like a lifestyle overhaul.
Mm-hmm.
Like, take a year and really learn how to do this. That way, you'll build like that's the thing. People were calorie counting. It's so obsessive and tedious and hard and blah, 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 blah. This sucks. Okay. You can look at it that way, or you can say, flip it, the mindset of this is giving me control over the process. It's allowing me to eat as much as I can and still see progress. I can fit in some of the things that I like in a certain quantity, and I'm learning a skill set that's going to serve me for the rest of my life. So you can say this sucks, it's tedious, it's boring, it's restrictive. Is this really necessary? Or you can have a positive frame of mind with it and look at the look at the great stuff that comes from it. Because look, I mean, I firmly believe like once you get somebody to their goal, and again, I hope that takes them a year to get there, because then they will know how to do it for the rest of their life the right way. But to your point about, the principles don't end. It doesn't. Like I firmly believe if you want to maintain your fat loss, that doesn't mean the lowest scale number you've ever seen or the leanest you've ever been. But if you want to keep off, call it 80% of the weight that you've lost, you're going to have to warm up to the fact that you're going to have to probably still track your calories and eat in a small deficit 4 or 5 days a week. Right. Because the intuitive try to eat clean after the diet approach, I've never seen anybody do that well, ever. I haven't.
I intuitively want to eat donuts every day.
Yeah, but here's the nice thing: if you're willing, after you lose the weight, and you have the skills, and you know how to do it. If you just simply continue, like call it Monday through Thursday or Monday through Friday, you're going to eat in a slight deficit. You're going to be moving a lot. You're going to be training, obviously. If you track, eat in a slight deficit 4 or 5 days a week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Saturday and Sunday, you can pretty much do within reason whatever the fuck you want. Yeah, your scale weight's going to spike on Monday. It's going to be up 3 or 4 pounds. But by Wednesday, if you get back to tracking, it's going to come right back down to where it was. Rinse and repeat for the next 30 fucking years. That's honestly what it takes, and that it's the weekend warrior approach that everybody fails with fat loss when they're actually trying in the goal acquisition part of it. It's I'm great Monday through Thursday and I suck ass Friday through Sunday, and I'm just maintaining my weight. That doesn't work when you're trying to get to where you want to go, but you should be really optimistic and be excited about the fact that once you do get there, you can eat like an asshole to a certain extent on the weekends if you're willing to accept the opportunity cost of still tracking during the week. That's pretty cool. Like that's where everybody wants to be, right? Everybody,
Yeah.
because I don't see the weekdays being that much of an issue for people, outside of the Taco Tuesday and Wine Wednesday stuff or whatever. But I really don't see the weekdays being much of a problem. It's it's usually Friday night to Sunday night. But it's like, just take a year and go fucking willfully suffer and go all in with this. Get there, and then you'll have the skills, and you'll enjoy. You're going to enjoy the way you look and feel so much that you'll have no problem wanting to still track 4 or 5 days a week. That's the spot you want to get to. But nobody wants to fucking take a year to do it. It annoys me, Allie, because like most of my clients are in that. The female contingent of them, or they're in that sticky, uncomfortable 130 to 180 pound range, and they all want to lose 25 pounds. I'm like, look, if you do this correctly for 1 year and you lose a half a pound a week, which isn't fast enough, you lose a half a pound a week over a year, there's the 25 pounds that you want to lose, and that's the fitness transformation that you want.
Totally.
I can't, but you have to take a year to do it. Because if you say, fuck it, it's not fast enough. Next year, when you decide, okay, I've had enough, I'm going to do it again. Now it's a 35 pound weight loss that you have to go after. Fuck it, it's not fast enough. It's just, my friend lost 8 pounds last week, eating fucking tree bark. I'm going to, every year you put it off, the harder it's going to get.
Oh yeah. It's almost like, and you and I both say the time's going to pass anyway. Why not use it to your advantage? And being a female, I can like understand what the women go through, because it's the fear of gaining it all back, or the fear of it's not going to come off, because usually this approach can start with gaining weight because you're actually eating more protein and more dense real food. So the scale goes up. But I think, like, for me, I train mostly guys who are like sub 20% body fat. Even with them, it requires at least a year to get them through that sticky point where you're uncomfortable, you're going to be a little bit fluffier, your abs might be a little bit blurry. But then once you get through that hump of having to gain a little bit to keep it off forever, then it's like for life. Like once I got that through my stubborn head with Luke, and it took him a year, I was like, dude, I'm not letting you retire, because now I can maintain pretty much within 5, and maintenance is 5 to 10 pounds for most people. They think it's not, but I can maintain that and have visible abs year round. And this is not me bragging, but this is me being beat over the head multiple times, not learning until you actually go through it.
Yeah. And I think, again, people's idea, this fear of maintaining it, their idea is, okay, if I go from 150 and get to the 125 goal weight that I have, now I got to stay at 125 permanently, or I'm failing. And I'm like, no, maintenance I always describe it as being 5 to 6 weeks of really hard dieting away from being at your best look.
Yep.
For instance, when I'm really, really lean, I need to be about 204 to 207. So the rest of the year, my threshold, which is where I am about right now, is I don't want to be any more than about 215, 216. Because for me, that's about 6 weeks of really hard dieting away from looking all weird,
Yeah.
But even that, to stay within that range, I'm still tracking my food 4 or 5 days a week, because if I don't, I could easily be 230 real fast.
Oh yeah. We're not immune to that. I think people also think that we're immune to that, or that we never are
No.
tired or unmotivated. It's just so ingrained. Like it's so foreign to me. I plan everything around my training. I just can't think otherwise. Granted, I don't have children and other massive
Sure.
responsibilities that people have, but I plan my schedule around my training. Whereas many people will say, well, I can't train because I'm going away. And if you don't want to train on vacation, that's fine. But listen, if you're asking for a certain result, like there's a certain amount you have to put in as well. And
Yeah, I
just
mean, Alec, that's the thing, man. People, their expectations are up here and they want to operate down here. And
yeah,
there's a big gap between those two. So it's like, once again, I was talking to RM yesterday about this, like, you can raise your effort level or you can lower your expectations, but you cannot have this both ways. I mean, I have a new client who was asking me, she's kind of overwhelmed with, she's like, is it really necessary to do, this weighing food and tracking stuff in this app? And I'm like, no. I said, based on what you told me you're looking to accomplish, which is about a 15% drop in her starting body weight. I said, based on what you tell me you want to do, this is in fact what it takes. I said, you don't have to track your food. You can try to make better choices or whatever the fuck that means. I said, you can do that, but just understand that we're going to turn a 20-week diet in probably into a 20-month diet. If you want to go about it, if you want to avoid the tedious nature of tracking calories and weighing food, which I told her, I said, I guarantee you, if you do this for 2 or 3 weeks, it's going to be so less tedious and overwhelming to you. I said, it's just a skill set. It's just, getting your chops, doing it for a couple of weeks. And then you're like, okay, then you're going to have 5 minutes a day, involved with tracking stuff and weighing stuff out, because you're just going to get better at it.
Second nature, just like, you're wiping the kitchen counter, you wipe down the scales. That's part of your routine. Your routine is you weigh the food before, everything.
I don't even think about it. Like I could eat out of a convenience store in a fat loss phase and still lose body fat. I'd go in there with a barcode scanner. Okay, beef jerky, scan the barcode. Kapoop. Okay, whole package. Quest bar, mixed nuts. I could literally do it but I've been doing this shit for 20 something years. So I understand. I don't expect people to be, but I could go out to eat every night and still lose body fat.
Me too. I actually lose weight on the road versus being at
home.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, okay, I'm going to Chick-fil-A. Okay, get on the nutrition tracking app, bring up Chick-fil-A. Okay, chicken sandwich is $3.50. I'm going to get 2 of those. I'm at 700 calories. Oh, I'm going to go to this restaurant tonight. I'm going to Firebirds. It's a chain restaurant here. All their nutrition information is online. Now, of course, it's might be within 20% accuracy, but it's something. Yeah. I could go out to eat like that all day long and still drop body fat if I was cutting. Not nearly as well, but I could definitely do it.
It's definitely doable. I tell people, like, I don't really cook. Like, I really don't. I make like bulk ground beef and that's really it. I hate cooking. And they're like, well, what do you eat? And I'm like, well, you can buy shredded rotisserie chicken and that's in Chronometer. And then I get a lot of sushi, but I don't get the fun sushi. Like you have to get nigiri or straight sashimi because you don't know what the fuck is in those rolls. And it's like fried and all that. But then cook up some ground beef. Like literally you don't need a lot. It doesn't have to be elaborate. Like I think all these elaborate food, like the Tupperware and the food that's been portioned for 6 days, like that's PTSD. I can't do that.
I hate that stuff. I could never do that stuff either. I had to cook on the spot. I mean, I might cook like a package of like ground chicken and I'll eat half of it and I'll put it in Tupperware and eat the other half the next day. But these people that have their chicken and rice for, labeled Monday through Sunday and like they're freezing it. And I'm like, no way. I'm like, it's not necessary anyway. If you know how to design a simple meal.
Yeah.
People seriously build your diet around about 8 to 10 total foods, literally. Like pick 4 or 5 protein sources and like 3 or 4 sources of carbs, buy a bunch of low and no calorie condiments and like add-ons. buy a bunch of seasonings, and then from those 8 to 10 foods, you're going to create like 4 to 5 go-to meals that you could just rotate through. Like it's literally that easy. I don't know how people get on these, get on Pinterest and Pinterest recipes, and like they get on like these, the Food Network looking for healthy recipes, and like there's 48 ingredients in this recipe. It's going to take me an hour to cook. Fuck no, this isn't sustainable. Like, you don't need to. Like, I can cook a meal in under 10 minutes, and most of the time it's like under 3 to 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like my protein oatmeal, it's 40 grams of oats with a cup of water, microwave for 90 seconds, scoop of protein powder, and a serving of like PB2, sprinkle some cinnamon, stir it up. It literally takes 3 minutes to make.
Can't be easier. I mean, and I think the way that I eat is very helpful for a lot of my guys who are newly single or divorced and just don't know how to cook, or who had wives who enjoyed cooking and all that, and it's like this foreign concept. I'm like, dude, this is what I do. You order sashimi, you can weigh the rice, you can weigh everything separate, like, and the rotisserie chicken is like gold, like that, and deli turkey or like
deli turkey, I'm all over. Like,
totally.
Horsehead brand, like their turkey and like deli chicken, the stuff is so good,
delicious.
And it has like they have like Chipotle flavored, they have like curry flavored, they have anything you can think of. It's expensive, but it's so easy because it's I put any food I buy as a custom food in my nutrition tracking app. Whenever I buy a new food, I'll put it as a custom food, and if I buy it again, I can just throw it on the scale, look it up in my app, change the amount, bam. Like it is easy. But I appreciate that, I appreciate it's not easy for a lot of people at first, but
yeah,
I have these clients that are like, well, what does the rest of my family eat? I'm like, or my wife or my husband likes to cook like these elaborate like casseroles and chilies and all that. I'm like, you eat your own shit. I'm like, this isn't like, you can cook them something different, or they can cook themselves something different. You can all sit down at the table together, but who really does that anymore? Like, you don't, like, this is your deal. I'm like, you can still sit down at the table with your family and eat with them. Just because you're eating something different is not the end of the world. Like, well, how do I track this, chicken tetrazzini casserole? I'm like, you don't eat that. Like, don't make that. I'm like, I can tell you how to track it. I said, but you're going to do it once, and trust me, you'll never want to do it again because of all the mental masturbation and stuff that's involved in like tracking 14 different ingredients and then having to figure out how many grams are in the whole dish, and then having to scoop it back out and reweigh it. I'm like, who wants to do that stuff?
Oh,
like,
fuck that. No,
it's simple.
Nobody wants to cook things with elaborate ingredients, honestly. And like that's also too, like, where it comes down to, like, I asked, do you have a supportive partner or people around you? Because there are people that, like, their spouse will give them shit for either eating something different or wanting to cook something different, or God forbid they don't indulge.
And that sucks. And I have a lot of those people too. And
yeah.
In an ideal world, like, you would have really great support. Although I do have a lot of clients that do have really good supportive partners. But I also have a lot that don't, and that sucks. But at the end of the day, like, you just gotta have a real conversation with them. Like, hey, look, I don't like the way I look or feel. I'm concerned about my health. I'm concerned about my ability to be a good husband or wife or parent. Like, I don't feel good in my own skin. I want to do this for me. And if you're going to give me shit about making a healthy choice for me and our future and our family, like, to hell with you. It's not like I'm asking you to support me, shooting fentanyl every night. Like, I'm asking you to support me getting healthier.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is, it goes back to us thinking like this warped concept of living a fitness lifestyle is still so much an outlier, so bizarre when you go to places in like, Disney World, and now it's like being normalized in the media, and everyone's living on semaglutide, and that's, yeah.
Although I'll tell you, I referred a number of clients to obesity docs to get GLP-1 agonists, because I'm like, I throw my hands up. I'm like, look, I just have a serious conversation. I'm like, look, lifestyle and a lifestyle intervention is not working for you, and it's probably not going to work for you. And I said, there's no shame in just getting some help with this pharmacologically because,
Yeah,
I mean,
I agree.
I've had people come coach with me 3 or 4 different times who never got anywhere. And it doesn't matter what I did or what I tried, like they were just not going to do what was required. And I got to the point, I'm like, or they were flat out like lying to me. It's like, I know the numbers. I'm like, there's no way you're doing like, and instead of getting in this back and forth of where I spend 4 hours dealing with that, I'm like, hey, you know what? Yeah, I think you probably are resistant to weight loss. You should go I'm serious. Because at that point, I'm like, well, number one, I want to help him, and I would love to see him drop some weight and get healthier. But I'm like, I can't do this. Like,
Yeah, I've had a few clients use it. I've used it just to try it because a lot of my meathead friends use it for cutting.
oh, sure.
And I'm like, ooh, like I want to
Like
try.
all of Hollywood's using it now.
Have to. Like, honestly, it worked for me for like maybe 2 weeks. And I tried it early in my cut in like August, I want to say. The part I liked was that it makes you disinterested. So anything you crave, like for me, is super sweet stuff. I was just not interested.
Yeah.
The problem for us though is like it can completely whack your appetite out. But if you're still training, that does not go very well.
Doesn't help. No. No.
So I was
But no,
like,
most people do. Most people need that though, to where they can intuitively know when to stop eating, or they lose interest in certain foods, and their gut and their brain communicate better. Like,
totally. And I mean,
you
listen,
totally
I'm a
need
fan
that.
of it too. I just it people will say it doesn't teach habits and stuff like that. And like I understand and respect that. But then there's a point where like if this gets it off and then they are able to learn that and motivated, then it's a win.
100%. 100%.
So I wish it was easier to get like at the grocery store or some shit.
Right. It'd be nice.
With a lot of these. I think that was everything that I had wanted to ask you and cover, because a big part of that was like the lifestyle stuff and just why things don't really resonate with people. And I think covering that whole, like when it doesn't work, like we just did at the end too, like, I think we've all had clients where they just don't track, their workouts are sporadic. We wonder, why are they paying for a coach? And then at least I take it personally, or used to take it personally, where I'd be like, what am I doing wrong?
I don't do it. I used to too.
Yeah.
And I still give every ounce of effort to get him going. But I'm to the point now where I'm like, this has nothing to do with me. I'm not doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
This is just, I mean, Allie, look, I mean, lifestyle intervention, typically for most people, unless you're like hyper into it like we are, it's usually only going to result like in a 5 or 10% reduction in body weight. And that's over the course of a year.
Right.
Right. I mean, for most people, that's, and 10% of your body weight, it's a fair amount. And then if you need to go further, which a lot of people do, unfortunately, it gets harder and slower. It just does. But that's what I'm saying. Like, people are like, when I tell people that, I'm like, okay, so you could realistically, if you're 200 pounds on December the 8th of 23, you can reasonably probably be like, 215 to 220. And they're like, well, that's only 25 pounds. I'm like, yeah, but that's, research has kind of shown that 10% is usually about where people start to sputter out, So,
what's interesting too is like, I don't get a lot of very overweight people, but it really does not require a lot of effort if you're very overweight.
not at all.
To drop
No.
it.
In that case, like I've had clients drop 100 pounds, but they were like started out 340, 350.
Yeah.
They 100 pounds in a year, which those people can easily drop, like early on, 2% of their body weight per week for a while. And then it's like 1% pretty consistently. And then at the very end, it's closer to that, a half a pound or a pound a week. But those first couple months, man, it can really fly off if you're obese.
Yeah, that's why I want people to realize like you really don't have to give up your entire life. Like if you're going for dick skin like you and I have, then that requires slow, very glacially
Very
paced
methodical.
fat loss. But like if you have a lot of body fat to lose, like it is very little effort, just tighten some stuff up, get some systems in place, like you said, and it can be relatively easy.
Yeah.
And the slower they go, obviously, with as they get leaner, then the better chance they have of it coming off. But I actually had one of my clients, and he's relatively lean. I would say he's about 16%, 17%. And he asked me, like, well, because he's a golf professional, so he doesn't understand this stuff. He's like, why is it better to not do it in a crash diet form? And I'm just like, okay. So that made me realize like sometimes I have to explain this still
Sure.
because you just assume people know that. But I'm like, man, if we can just get this info of like everyone just calm the fuck down and take your time.
I tell my clients all the time, I'm like, look, if you are under 200 pounds, like a half a pound a week is what you should be
Oh yeah.
striving for. Because that way you don't have to rock bottom your calories. You can still have a little bit of a life. And that's a perfectly fine rate of weight loss, perfectly fine rate. There's no reason. I mean, once again, if you're 170, picture yourself at 145, you'd be thrilled. Just
Yeah.
take your time for a year and do it in a really sustainable fashion. Like you don't have to lose 8 pounds the first week or I quit. And I've had people say, I have people like to drop 4 or 5 pounds in a week. You're like, oh, I really thought it was going to be more. I'm really disappointed. I'm like, what the fuck? What are you talking about? Like, do you have any like, but they don't have any idea because they've been marketed
No.
so long with all this dribble. Woman's World magazine, lose 31 pounds by New Year's Day. It's just like, so there's a lot of rewiring and undoing that has to be done with people upstairs and constant education. And some people take to it and some people don't. Some people do the work, some people don't.
Yeah. You
Not to
can
keep,
only
but
control so
I'm
much.
perfectly honest, like, and I think this is true for pretty much every good coach. I'm not talking about the bad ones because they don't even have this type of success, but I'd say 3 out of every 10 of my clients get like stellar results and the other 7 do not.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because you go to our websites and you'll see,
The same people.
dozens of transformation pictures. They're like, wow, you're really good. I'm like, thank you. However, you got to understand, I've worked with probably 500 people online.
Yep.
Those are the 40 that did what I told them to do and took 6, 12, 18 months to do it. Like,
Totally. Yeah. Because it's like the rotation of the same whoever you
you're
have
not
at that time.
exactly. You're not seeing 440 people who kind of did okay or just sputtered out after 2 months. Like, I'm perfectly honest about that. And I think
Yeah.
that's pretty much the case for every coach.
100%. Like that's why I like talking about like what doesn't work, because sometimes it's like, all right, maybe I didn't empathize deeply enough or my expectations were too high, but this is based on what the person is demanding they want. So
Right.
you're trying to deliver the path there. So there are times where they like you said, they lose interest or sputter, or I don't even know what it is. Sometimes I have no fucking clue. And I even ask, and I'm just like, why won't you do this? And they don't know.
They don't know. It goes back to what I always say, what I said to Aram yesterday on his. Most people like the idea of the outcome, but they still have one foot in their old lifestyle and habits, and they hate their problem. I'm sorry, they dislike their problem a lot, but they really hate the solution to the problem. That's why they're not doing the work. They're not ready to do the work, and they don't want to do the work yet. Like, there's going to have to be a pain point they reach, whether it's a heart attack or diabetes or seeing themselves shirtless at the lake looking like a land beast. It's going to take something like that, unfortunately, or a combination of those things to get them to do it.
For the men, I just tell them your dick's not going to work if you don't do this. And usually,
That's usually incentive enough.
it should be for guys, right?
Yeah, it would be for me.
I know, right? But it is true. Guys don't correlate. Like, obesity, insulin resistance, heart disease, all of that affects your blood vessels, which affects your dick.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how else to put it. So, but it's true. It's like, it
100%
really is. What's that?
It's 100% correct.
So thank you for being transparent about that, because it is true. And, you know, people don't realize where they could be in a year, let alone 4, 5, 10 years. Like literally when I started with Luke, I was pretty much the same way I am now. I look vastly different, but the more you go through this process, the easier it gets for people. It's just that first, get them over.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. If you can get through two or 3 really solid months, it gets exponentially easier. You get into kind of a mastery phase of it, and it's a lot less time consuming. And then you have self-efficacy and you're seeing results at that point in time. Like you aren't going to see any real aesthetic changes if it's inside of a 3-month window. Like, don't even like.
No, I don't even like
doing. You got to stick out 12 weeks of really hard consistency to even start seeing something like that.
Like precision. Like I hate before and after photos that are less than 3 months. I refuse to post them.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Because it's stupid. So if anyone wants to work with you or apply to work with you or talk to you or insult you or comment or compliment you, where do they find you?
I'm on Instagram at PJ Striet. That's STRIET. Website revivefitnesssystems.com. And I am running my only sale of the year. I do 1 sale a year for the holidays. It's a massive discount on coaching. Sign up for 6 months, get 3 free. Sign up for 12 and get 6 free. So that's good through December.
Shit. I might break up with Luke and no, I'm kidding.
You're awesome. Hitched, Allie. You're hitched.
I am. Thank you, PJ, for coming on again.
All right. Thanks so much.